Welcome to Latino Talk TV. I'm your host, Ben Mendez.
And this is Rob Arteaga.
We have an exciting show today. We have several guests. But before we go talk to them, we want to talk about current events. And you know, Rob, we had a terrible loss this week.
Yes, of course.
Houston Texans lost again.
Yes.
But the good side is that we are going to be first pick in the draft.
That's true.
Yeah. So you always have to look at the bright side, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of rumors out there. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I thought that it was shocking that they let go of Kubiak. You know, that wasn't something that I was expecting. But, 11 losses aren't acceptable,
Well, everybody was talking about this was going to happen.
Sure.
So it wasn't a secret. So everybody was expecting it. The question was when it was
Sure.
going to happen. It's kind of ironic that the owner, McNair, decided on the way back from Jacksonville, on the flight back, he decided he would do it at this moment. Maybe it's because they have 10 days until the next game, and there was a good opportunity for him to do so.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, there's another article, unfortunately, about HISD again in the Chronicle today. And they've had a history of principals getting in some kind of trouble.
Yep.
Well, we had a higher up in HISD get in trouble again. Just recently was arrested for drug possession.
Yes.
Along with her husband, who's also a principal at HISD. So they are both they were both nabbed, if you will, with drug possession. Now, I don't know what to tell you on that, but I think it's a bad news whenever you have our kids around somebody that's using illegal drugs.
I think not just the kids, but I think that the trust that the community has in the school system is just broken down even more because these are our leaders. These are the people that are running our schools going through this. And it's not just them. There was 2 more principals in the news too. We had the Hempstead with the Spanish, no Spanish.
That's correct.
That, said that. And then there was the other principal who was accused of shoplifting too.
That's true. These are hard times. Even some teachers can't afford certain things, and they choose to do illegal activities to get more monies in their pocket. They're just like everybody else. There's always a few bad apples everywhere you go.
That's true.
Right?
Yep.
So you can't blame all of HISD. This is a specific incident that happened.
Right.
The other thing that was in the news, the district attorney from San Antonio, she is being charged with DUI.
Oh my goodness.
So they're going to bring in a judge from outside of San Antonio to, I guess, go with the case and figure out if she is going to be charged or not. Now, if she's charged, she loses her job automatically. Okay? So her future is in the judge's hands right now.
Sure. And I think that's, something that is expected of when an elected official is going through something like that, no?
Well, keep in mind that she's on the other side. She's a district attorney.
Exactly.
Okay? She's the one that actually convicts people.
Right.
Right? Takes them to the jury for conviction, that is.
Sure.
Now, the shoe's on the other foot.
Right. Now she's the one that's got to be, held accounted for.
Okay? And then, also today, there was a report of a Harris County jailer was caught smuggling in a cell phone. Okay? Now, you see that happening a lot in Texas prisons. You rarely hear about it in Harris County, though. Now, it'll be interesting to see what happens as a result of this. Is it a one-time thing? Is it, has it happened 20 times?
Yeah.
What kind of monies is he getting in exchange for that? What's going on?
Yeah. It's sad to see that our officials are doing something like that because it's just what happens to all that cell phone blocking that goes on in the jails. What are they using these cell phones for in there? I thought they couldn't even use them.
And then Mr. William Powers, who's the president of UT in Austin, his job is actually being scrutinized. They're going to have a board meeting to decide if he can keep his job. He's been in that position as president since 2006. So I don't know if he's doing bad, good, who knows, but his job is on the line.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens in that. Now, I will tell you that there's a lot of things going on with the elections right now. Houston City Council, they have a special election. I'm sorry, not a special election, a runoff election.
A runoff election.
That's going on. Tomorrow is the last day to vote early. I know the weather's terrible. but you know better than I do, your vote counts. I think we have Robert Gallegos, who's going to be on our show in a few minutes. He's running for city council against Gracie Grasas for District I.
Sure.
And then we have another race, Roy Morales, city at large, is running against Mr. Kubash. And then there's a few other races going on. So it's important that you get out there and vote. The actual election day is on Saturday, December 14th. Any other news?
Well, you know, it's funny you mentioned the election because I was going through my mail and I hadn't been in there for a while. And so I was getting all the ads for all the offices that are being run for. And I was getting all these negative ads. I'm like, oh man, it's like I got to go through these again. But, you know, I'm glad that you have the show because it gives me more insight on these elections that are going on. And I get to go and just go through my mail and look more into these positions that are being elected, and so that I can make a better decision.
And we can't forget that we have HEC elections as well. So we have Elena Garcia running against Adriana Tamez for a seat that Elena Garcia currently holds. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the incumbent. I will tell you that there's other races going on, and it's up to you to find out what pertains to you in your area. So go to harriscountyvotes.org and you'll get more information. The other thing is I found very interesting, a gentleman by the name of Tom Wagner. He was flying in from Louisiana. He flew into Houston yesterday on United Airlines flight. He fell asleep in the plane, okay? He woke up, the plane was shut down, there was no lights in the plane. He was making phone calls to trying to get help. The people that answered could not believe that he was still in the plane because according to them, they had checked the plane out.
Oh my goodness.
So he had fallen asleep, woke up. It was like a bad dream, he says. Isn't that amazing?
I would have started going to see what was in the little snack aisles, you know, to make it a couple of days, you know.
All right, well, we'll be back in a few minutes. We're going to have a special guest. We have Mr. and Miss Bailey. They are biographers, and they're actually writing about Macario Garcia, the history of Macario Garcia. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Back to Latino Talk TV. We are here today with Mr. Javier Perez, our co-host. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Javier.
Always a pleasure, Ben. Always a pleasure. Great to be here with Dr. Feelgood. I tell you, Rob's a great guy.
That's right. Well, I will tell you that we have some great history to talk about right now. As you know, we have an icon, Mr. Macario Garcia, who we have a street named him after him, right next to Wayside and 45.
Right.
Macario Garcia, they're writing a biography, and we have Mr. and Miss Bailey here. Thank y'all for coming to the show.
Our
You're
pleasure.
welcome.
So let's get right into it. Tell us a little bit about how you even got into this project.
Well, it's a simple answer, and it's not very exciting, but simply in the early 80s, I saw the sign, the street sign, and it shocked me that I didn't know what it meant, didn't know anything about it. And from there, I learned a little bit about Macario Garcia, and that's, I mean, really, I know it's not an exciting story, but that's where it started. You asked me where it started, and that's the beginning of it.
So why don't you kind of just tell us a little bit from the very beginning about Macario, who he is, because the average person out there, like myself, did not know who Macario Garcia was or is. And so I know that he still has family members around, and I'm assuming they're Rosenberg or Richmond.
No.
Where are they
no,
from?
they used to live out there, but Bobby, his oldest son, lives in Louisiana, and then Renee, I don't know, but his sister lives in the Cypress Fair area. So they live in the Houston area. The family used to be from Rosenberg, Fort Bend area.
Okay.
So that's where all the things happen. That's where Macario grew up. He grew up at the intersection, near the intersection of Highway 99 and Highway 90, which used to be the Schumann Ranch.
Okay, so take us back a few years. Why is he so important to write about? What did he do specifically, starting from the very beginning?
I'll let my wife chime in here.
Well, of course, they came as sharecroppers and followed some friends from Castanos, Mexico, first to Welder, Texas, and then they came to work at the Schumann Ranch. Mr. Schumann's nephew told us what a great worker Macario was. He said he was such an outstanding young man. He was given charge over all of Mr. Schumann's cattle. And in 1940, there was the Selective Service Act that all resident aliens must register for the draft. Macario did his duty and was inducted on November 11th, 1942. And of course, as a child, he helped put food on the table by hunting rabbits or whatever he could find, and so he was a good shot. He was qualified as an expert marksman within the first year.
So Macario was a resident alien.
Right.
Was he what you would call now undocumented?
Right. They were undocumented.
I call him in the biography an illegal alien, illegal immigrant. I'm classifying him as such because he was.
Of course, Macario says it never occurred to him that he wasn't a U.S. citizen because he was 4 years old when they came here. And he was the second oldest child, and I think there's 12, something like that. So, in fact, the youngest was born while Macario was in Germany. So
his name is Lupe, and he's very proud of his brother and very active in promoting his brother's legacy throughout the time that we've been involved with this.
I was first learning about Macario last week when I was talking with Ben. I think some of the amazing things that he did in the military service. Can you all expand a little bit on that?
Well, I'll take you right through it. I'm writing on that extensively right now. Macario Garcia got to, on D-Day +3, he arrived between Omaha and Utah Beach. Omaha Beach is where where Saving Private Ryan, that's right. Utah, that's Omaha Beach. But when he arrived, they were still shelling the beach. The German line was 4 miles inward, and so the beachhead was right there. So they moved immediately, and he said some people got killed when they were approaching the beach. Then they fought westward toward a port called Cherbourg, and that was on June 27th, 22nd Regiment, along with other units. When I'm talking, when I say Macario Garcia and 22nd Regiment did something, that doesn't mean they did it by themselves. It's kind of like speaking about Michael Jordan and Chicago Bulls. So they captured Cherbourg, and Macario was wounded. That's where he got his first Purple Heart. And then after that, they moved back eastward, fighting in the hedgerows. And I don't know if you know what the hedgerows countries are, but hedgerow country is. But interestingly, on June 27, when they captured Cherbourg, that's where Patton came through that port. General Patton was not in the war yet. Without that port, General Patton doesn't get into the war. Mm-hmm. And that Cherbourg port solved huge logistical problem for the Allies, because they didn't have a port to supply all their troops at that time. So you have Patton coming in through that port, and then you have Ernest Hemingway, who joins up with the 22nd Regiment on July 28th as the embedded correspondent. And so the hedgerow fighting, and then you have the hedgerow fighting is now, am I being too meticulous and too detailed? Okay. The hedgerow fighting was like huge hedges that you have in your yard, but they've been growing about 1,000 years. And there are thousands of them. So the Germans, they were perfect defensive positions for the Germans. So it was very hard to drive them out, and they couldn't drive them out. The plan for the Allies on Europe on D-Day was for General Montgomery to be the one who breaks through the German line. He was, I think, on Sword Beach. He couldn't do it. And so the onus fell on 22nd Regiment and Macario Garcia to do it. And by the way, Macario Garcia is a lead scout for the Assault Company B of 1st Battalion, 22nd Regiment. He's a lead scout. Through our research of this situation, we've interviewed anybody and everybody we could during our time. And I called a guy in Louisiana. His name is Warren Broad. This is 10 years ago, 7 years ago, I don't know. And just I called him up because he was a newspaper of the scrapbook we got, and we pursued everybody we could. And I said, I'm looking for Warren Broad, a guy who scouted with Macario Garcia back in World War II. He says, I'm the one. And he scouted with Macario one day. I didn't prompt him. I didn't say, those are the words. And I said, well, he said, oh, I'm shocked. And so I say, what was it like? He said, Macario Garcia was fearless. He didn't really, those are the words he used. I didn't prompt him. I didn't tell him to say those words. He said he didn't mind getting out in the open, this, that, and the other. And I said, what happened after that? He says, that was the only day I scouted with him. After that, they moved him back to regimental headquarters. So anyway, now we go to July 24th and 25th. They can't break out. The German line cannot be broken. The beachhead is not that wide. I mean, we're still in jeopardy of being driven back into the ocean like at Dunkirk. There is no guarantee that we can go forward. So Omar Bradley, the general, devised a plan, this huge bombing, a carpet bombing. And the carpet bombing is so extensive. And then, okay, you have the carpet bombing, and then you have three infantry divisions side by side, and then you have 2 armored divisions, and then you have the 22nd Regiment. The 22nd Regiment, they're going to open the gap, a 2 1/3 mile gap, at a city called St. Lo. And Macario Garcia, not for whatever reason, they were an elite group. They were just excellent fighters. For some reason, the whole group of them. And Macario said many times, he said, I've seen so many people do so many brave things. What I've done is nothing. So you're dealing with a lot of tremendous people. And the regimental leader is a guy named Colonel Lanham. Colonel Lanham would tell, if you were the officer and you came up in his division, he said, if you don't do what I tell you to and reach the objective, you're going to penitentiary. I mean, and the officers were shocked. I mean,
and that was a nice way of putting it. If I said, I'll shoot you myself, probably.
Yeah, but he meant business. So anyway.
And he would also tell him, if you survive today, I'll promote you. If you take one step back, I'll court-martial you. And his commander, his captain, when he first came as a lieutenant, he saw Macario walking down the road back toward them. They were standing, the colonel and Hemingway and a group of officers were standing there watching him. And he says, now there is a real soldier. And Macario every day was out in front, or alone sometimes. On September the 16th,
No, that September 16th is another Bronze Star day. She's talking the day of him doing what you're saying. We don't know the date, but he won the Bronze Star. Go ahead and tell the story.
Anyway, he went out by himself, got in behind the German lines.
In Germany.
He hides in some bushes for 3 hours. They're surrounding him, and he somehow does not get detected, and he gets all their plans. He's able to get out, get back to his regiment, and they're able to capture that whole group of Germans.
Wow.
And there's a Bronze Star related to that, and the general of the 4th Infantry wrote the citation and signed off on it. I mean, these are things that, and the September 16th she's talking about is very interesting, because that's Mexican Independence Day.
That's right.
On Mexican Independence Day, he's over there, this Mexican, this Mexican, and I say that so respectfully. A lot of people, when you say word Mexican, it's a bad word or something. When I tell people I'm writing about a Mexican, they just go nuts. It's like, I don't know what the deal is. I mean, people from Mexico are Mexicans. So, at any rate, September 16th, his captain, Bizarro, which we have talked to in 1997 we started talking to him, and I talked to him for 2 or 3 times a year. He's from Bedford,
Now, is Pizarro,
Pennsylvania.
is he a Latino?
No,
Or is he
Italian.
He's
Yeah.
Italian, okay.
So at any rate, his commanding officer says, get up there about 400 or 500 yards and see what you can see. Okay, and he's a scout, so he takes another buddy, and Macadio's up there looking around this, that, and the other. And the German shell, he gets hurt a little bit just with some shrapnel, and then he sees a German machine gun nest, and he tells his buddy doesn't see it, so he sights his buddy's rifle on it. Says there he is. So the guy sees it, and then Macario says, "You watch out for me. I'm going to go get him." And so Macario sneaks around, outflanks, goes behind, cuts the communication lines of the German machine gun. See, the machine gunners aren't there alone. They're connected to the artillery, so the artillery can focus down and what they call bracket down on a unit that the machine gun people pin down and diminish them. So anyway, Macario cuts the wire and sneaks up on the guy and captures him. This is something that is so amazing about Macario Garcia. I cannot believe the guy could do this. He did not kill people like he said, I'm not a wanton killer. That's words he used. And he would not kill people if they didn't try to kill him. But he killed them if they did on the Congressional Medal of Honor Day, November 27th. I mean, he killed many Germans, but he saved many Germans. So anyway, that's an interesting thing about him. And in the restaurant situation that happened after he came back on September the 10th, 45, the lady was very lucky that she picked up a baseball bat and was beating a man over the head who had the composure of Macario Garcia. Otherwise, she lost her teeth in the battle. You know, what do you expect a combat infantryman to be doing in a woman beating him over the head with a baseball? What do you think the guy, what kind of composure does this guy have? I mean, anyway.
Can you expand on that? What exactly happened now?
Okay, I'll let my wife, is that okay if I switch
absolutely,
over?
Sure.
It happened that evening he had been to probably the Rotary or some other group had been honoring him that afternoon or evening, and he got on, like a Greyhound bus to come back to Richmond, and the bus stopped in front of this cafe called the Oasis Cafe, and it always was known very well publicly that no Mexicans and no Negroes were allowed. And so it happened that his best friend, since he was 2 years old, was also on the bus when he got on.
Pedro Ramirez, and we've interviewed him, and he died about 2 years ago. Go ahead.
So when they got off the bus, he told Pedro, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get some coffee and a hamburger. You want to come with me? And Pedro says, no, don't go in there. You know it'll be trouble. He says, no. They just honored me in Sugar Land yesterday. I have a right to go in and eat. And Pedro stood outside the door and watched through the glass. And when things began to fly through the air, the salt shakers and sugar bowls and whatever, and the glass.
And some teeth.
And the glass began to break. He ran to go get Macario's brother down the street at a bar. Before the night was over, of course, the police had come. The commandant of the prisoner of war camp in Rosenberg came, and he took Macario home to Mama. And the daughter, his sisters, remember she kept pouring kerosene over his hands. But it was about 2 or so in the morning. But when his oldest son was about 16, they were driving past that restaurant. He says he told his son what had happened. And he says, and I turned around and I hit her in the mouth, and here's the scar where I broke her tooth. So that was the first time Bobby said he ever really talked about the war at all with him. But there again, to hold his composure, I mean, no doubt, he could have done much worse. He could have really injured the lady.
What did the lady do to him?
Well, she told him to get out, and he says, "No, I just want a cup of coffee." And she said no, and she picked up a bat and she started beating him with it, hitting him in the head and the back.
Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time. I know there's a lot of history here.
Oh, there's a lot.
We would like for you to come back and share a little bit more about Macario Garcia. And for the viewers out there, just let you know, we have Pancho Claus in the house. Our famous Pancho Claus and Mr. Robert Gallegos, candidate for District I City Council. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Latino Talk TV. We have a special guest. We have Robert Gallegos. Thank you, Robert, for joining us.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it.
Robert is obviously running for City Council.
Yes.
City District I, right?
Yeah, City Council District I.
And so tell us a little bit about what's going on in the race.
Well, back on November 5th, there were 4 candidates, and we're down to a runoff. The runoff election is on December the 10th. Right now we are in a early voting. Early voting started Wednesday last week. It's continuing, and today it ends at 7 today, but then it goes on tomorrow from 7 to 7 as well. And then Saturday is the day of the election from 7 to 7. So if no one has voted since Wednesday last week, and you still have the opportunity to do so tomorrow, and if for some reason you don't do it tomorrow, then you have one last day, which is Saturday.
So tell us a little bit about some of the issues going on in District I.
Yeah, and some of the issues is in regards to District I. Of those that are not familiar with the boundaries of District I, covers downtown, east downtown, covers most of the East End, covers the Hobby Airport area, covers also out by Mercury and I-10 over there in Songwood, El Dorado, the Texaco area. So that's all District I. So it's pretty diverse. In District I right now, our council member is James Rodriguez, but he is term limited. So it's an open seat. So now it's myself and Gracie Garces. She's my opponent. She is stating that she has 10 years of experience working at City Hall. But the problem is with that is that you know, she was not living in the district. She's living in, or was living in Humboldt, for till just recently, for a year ago, in order to meet that 1-year residency requirement. The difference between me and her in that respect is that I was born, raised, and have lived in this district all my life. My father came to Magnolia Park back in the 1920s. As a matter of fact, he's listed in The Spirit of Magnolia Park. It's a book that was published by Houston Community College last year. I'm the youngest of 7, born at Parkview Hospital, went to McElharty Mary, Edison, graduated from Stephen F. Alston. Currently live at Houston Country Club Place off of Lawndale and Wayside. Been president of my civic club for the past 15 years. Chose to remain in this district. And not only did I choose to remain in the district, I've been active in the community for the past 30 years. I'm proud of my record. VoteRobertGallegos.com is the record of 30 years of what I've been doing in this community as a volunteer. And I do want to go to City Hall to represent us and represent us well.
What's your experience in politics? Have you been in an elected position before?
No, this is my first time running. But I have helped other candidates since I was in junior high school.
That was last year.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, I go way back. Back when it was old school, where you had to go and make copies of the flyers. You had to actually do the printing of the signs yourself, basically, with a screening. You had to
Bill mimeograph. Huh?
right. Exactly. You had to put the signs
That was
on.
before my time.
Oh yeah, right. Sure, Ben.
You had to
Sure
put the
was.
signs on wooden stakes and
Yeah.
hammer them on there and what have you. So I did all that. I did all that. I enjoyed it. Back when I was the president of the CYO at Immaculate Heart of Mary. This was back when I was maybe 15, 16 years old. Our advisor at that time, he was into politics, and he got some of us to help him out to do these things. And I guess I got that bug. I've been interested in politics like that, but first time I've ever ran for office, and I'm looking forward to going to City Hall.
You know, Robert, what really drives you? I know that you and I also we took the NHPO Leadership Institute course together
Yes.
back in class 2 about 4 years ago.
Right.
And what actually drives you, Robert? I mean, people do this for different reasons. Lord knows why.
Right.
But I kind of get a different sense about you, that you're actually doing it because you're a true servant leader.
Oh, I am. I mean, and I appreciate that. Again, on my website, robertgallegos.com, there's 30 years of history of being active in this community. I've taken on several projects. I've been either the chair, the president, or participated with other groups. It's something that I care about. I care about my community, and that's the only reason why I'm going to City Hall, because I care about this community. There's no special interest behind me. It's doing it because I care about the community, and I feel that's why I was able to be in the runoff. I mean, I got a lot of community leaders that are supporting me. Ben Mendez, I've got his endorsement as well. I've got the endorsement of Leticia Blaza as well. Not the endorsement, excuse me, the support. I don't have the official endorsement of Leticia, but the support of Leticia. She's phone banking for me, and will be pushing cards for me come Saturday. So the community is wanting change. Again, my opponent claims she has 10 years of experience at City Hall. But prior to that, James Rodriguez is our current council member, and before that was Carol Alvarado. But they were all basically handpicked to be the next city council member. The community is tired of that. The community is tired of the petty politics. The community wants someone that's going to actually be taking care of the community. I have a record of that. 30 years of serving the community, and again, I want to go to City Hall to do that.
30 years is a long time to be serving the community. What are some of your proudest accomplishments?
Well, I can mention two of them right off the bat. In regards to the underpass at Harrisburg, the old city administration, Bill White administration, the old Metro, they wanted to build a 10-block, massive overpass on Harrisburg for the East End Rail Line. I was contacted by Diane Lipton. She was the past president of the East End Chamber. She called me and she said, "Hey, Robert, I need your help to go and organize the civic clubs, let them know what's going on." So I went to all the civic clubs around the Harrisburg area. We formed the East End Rail Subcommittee under the East End Chamber of Commerce. For 4.5 years, we fought the old Metro, the old city administration.
That would have effectively destroyed that neighborhood.
Yeah, it would have divided that portion of the East End with a massive overpass. For example, right now you can go to the north side, right there on North Main. They have a massive overpass just for the north side rail line. But the one on Harrisburg would have been for the rail line and for traffic. So it would have been wider and longer. So that would have just completely destroyed any economic development that we were hoping for along Harrisburg. So with the election of Mayor Parker, we were able to have her do another feasibility study. And it came back that the underpass wasn't going to cost as much as that overpass that the past administration was claiming. So Mayor Parker did approve a new underpass. We're going to get a new underpass in 2016. One last project that I've been involved in is the saving of the old Rufus Cage Elementary School at 1417 Telephone Road. That building's 103 years old. HISD put it up for sale. Juliet Stepetch called me and said, "Robert, I need your help. HISD is selling this building with no guarantees that they would save it." So I organized the civic clubs. We formed the Rufus Cage Educational Alliance. We went to HISD. We convinced them to transfer to the city. We talked to Mayor Parker. She agreed to accept it. We were pleasantly surprised that they put a brand new roof on that building. So now we're going to work to try to turn it into an arts learning center for the youth in District I. So again, those are just two of many projects that I've been involved in. And I'm doing this once again because I care about this community and I want to go to City Hall to represent us.
Let's talk to the viewers about what it is like to be a candidate. You know, this is your first time running. Was it what you expected?
I mean, in regards to the excitement and being out there, yes. I mean, I really enjoyed that. I've enjoyed that. But unfortunately, there's that petty politics. I mean, you know, my opponent has put out a mailer that basically is a lot of lies. Again, go to my website, voterobertgallegos.com. I'm proud of my record. I stand on my record. And what's stated in that mailer, I mean, people can see that those are just lies, basically. If they know me or if they go on my website, they know those are lies. And that really hurts, to know that you've actually spent your time for 30 years out there in the community and someone wants to be elected so bad that they put lies on a mailer and send it out to who knows how many people in the district.
But you know better than I do that Carol Alvarado and James Rodriguez and Gracie Gracias, that's one team, right?
Yes.
They're going to do anything and everything they can to maintain the power.
Right, exactly.
Since Carol has lost her seat against, or actually lost the Senate race against Sylvia Garcia, and now James is going to be out of office.
Right.
So she doesn't have any alliances right now. So she's really banking on trying to get Gracie elected
Right.
to have some kind of political pull in District I.
Right,
So that's what
exactly.
it boils down to. Now, I find it kind of interesting. The four candidates that ran the first time, you had myself, you had Leticia Blasa, you had Gracie, and yourself.
Right.
I mean, they all came from different powers to be. You came from the Sylvia Garcia camp,
Yes.
so to
yes,
speak,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then Gracie, of course, came from James, and I was the Lone Ranger, if you will. And Leticia had her base.
Right.
So it was kind of interesting. You had these different bases, and almost every candidate ended up with 25% of the vote.
Yes, it was a nail biter that night.
Yeah. You had four candidates. Obviously, the people in District I were split.
Right.
No question about it.
Yeah.
So there wasn't, you can't really say that because I have so-and-so endorsing me that I'm going to win this election. Didn't work in District I because you had four people that really poured their heart out and got 25% of the vote.
You know, I think that was a great, it's a great achievement for that kind of leadership to
Right.
come out of the East End like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was I don't think 200 votes separated number one from number four.
Yeah,
It was amazing.
I was 171 votes from being in first place. You know,
And you beat Ben by 20 votes,
yeah,
right?
by 20. Yeah, well,
And he
25 now.
He still holds that against you, Robert. Just wanted you to know.
Did you go vote?
I don't live in the district, so.
Go vote.
But the point being is that, you know, and I'm telling people, because Gracie's going around saying she's got the 10 years experience at City Hall. You know, but again, she doesn't
What
have the experience in
jobs
working
has
in the
she
community.
held? She says 10 years.
Exactly, as a staffer for the past 10 years. And, you know, that's what I'm telling myself is that, yes, you've been in City Hall for 10 years, but once you got your check at 5 o'clock, you headed back to Humboldt, Texas. You know?
That's right.
You know, once I got my check, I remained in the district. You know, I went back home to the East End. You know, and I worked and volunteered in the East End for the past 30 years. You know, and on November 5th, 72% of the voters in District I voted for change. Again, she's going around claiming she's got this experience, and that's what she was banking on. But 72% of the voters in District I on November 5th voted for change.
You know, for the voters that are not familiar with District I, about half of the voters are over 65. Just imagine, okay? Now, the Latino population is a young population, and yet the average voter, 77% of this district is Latino. The average voter is over 65. Isn't that incredible?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So the older folks, obviously, if you go to the Civic Club, you'll see who's running those Civic Clubs. It's the older folks
Yes.
that are there on a regular basis every month, coming out to find out what they can do to help their community. Why is it that the younger community, the younger generation is not involved?
Unfortunately, I think I kind of think with social media though, I think it's going to probably, hopefully soon, where they'll start getting more involved in regards to actually taking the reins of the Civic Club duties as president, vice president and stuff. They are helping in the sense with social media to get that information out there to the neighborhoods. For example, in my civic club, we had someone that was actually sending out the email blasts, that was actually helping with the our website page, and I think that right there is really going to help in the near future in regards to get more young people involved, because they'll be able to sell you all this information and a lot, you know.
Are the campaigns though getting the return on investment that they're doing on the social media? Because I've heard that for the past couple elections. I mean, you guys, from experience, do you guys see the benefits from
Every
using
little
that?
bit helps, but I forgot to mention to our viewers, we have a number on the screen. If you want to call us, Robert will be here for another few minutes. You have an opportunity to ask him whatever it is that you want to ask. So getting back to your question, this is just my perspective. Social media is cheap, okay? It doesn't cost you anything to do Facebook or YouTube videos or anything like that. The problem is does the voter actually see that?
Right.
Are you connected to the actual voter? And that's where the trick is.
Yes, I agree.
So maybe, so from what I'm hearing, maybe like if it could be centralized to a certain community, would that help any?
Again, you have to be, like on Facebook, you have to be friends with the voters if you want to outreach, or friends of the voters. Okay, and so you keep in mind the average voter is over 65. So many of them don't use Facebook. Many of them don't even use email.
Robert, do you have a breakdown of the people that voted in the general election? As far as age-wise,
No.
I know the over 65, they always come out. It would have been interesting to see how much of the younger folks came out.
Yeah.
That's actually the one that social media goes after, because the older folks aren't on social media.
What you'll find a lot is that the younger generation that does vote, it's because their parents vote. And so they've kind of been brought up.
Brought up like that, yeah.
Okay, and so you see that quite a bit.
Yeah. What I really enjoy while I'm out there pushing cards at the voting locations, to see the parents come in, or with their grandparents and with the kids, you know, their daughter or son. I mean, it's really nice, especially when it's an infant that they're just, you know, holding in their hand and they're bringing them to the post. I mean, that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that when we go vote, we take our kids, we take our grandkids.
You know, I'm very proud to say that all of my kids over 18 voted.
Great.
I mean, I went to great lengths to make sure that my 18-year-old, who was 18 about 35 days before the election, that he got his ID. You know, he had to go out and do that now because of the ID law. He did that, and he was out there voting. All my kids, I said, don't ever miss an election.
I got a serious question for you.
What's that?
And I want you to be honest with me. Did you vote for me?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. No. He's still trying to look for those 20 votes.
Rob, let's talk about two issues. One is the Astrodome. What is your stance on the Astrodome? Should we have passed the bond or not?
Okay, the way I voted was yes. I voted in favor
To
of,
save it?
yeah, to save it. To
Okay.
save it. I just feel, again, with me helping the Rufus Cage, you know, building, I just see the history.
Exactly,
the history
part of our
that's there.
history.
And the Astrodome, there's rich history there. I mean, again, as you know, that was the first dome, you know, in the world. A lot of people came to Houston because of the dome. And I think it's an asset. It's an asset to right there next to Reliant. You know, I'm not sure in regards to exactly what it can be used for, but there has to be something that it can be used for that will save the building and will bring hopefully tourists to the city of Houston. We have a rail line that goes right by there now. You know, we have 610, the freeway that goes right by there. I mean, it's in a perfect location next to the Reliant Stadium. We just have to figure out what can we do with the Astrodome to bring revenue to the city of Houston.
Well, I want to thank you for coming out.
welcome.
Any last minute questions?
You know what? One thing, I worked the polls that day, and I just want to say, you know, I was working for Ben,
Yes.
trying to give him those 20 votes. but anyway, Robert, I was amazed at how many people knew you during. I mean, one poll was looking. It was your brother, your sister-in-law, and a cousin. I said, man, he has family out of polls all over the place. How you gonna beat this guy? And you know what, let me say this, Robert. You probably raised the least amount of money
Yeah, no, I did.
of all four candidates, and he did a fantastic job with his grassroots effort.
Yeah. No,
Robert, I wish you the best, and
Yeah.
and I hope we can claim you as our city councilman.
Thank you. I
after
appreciate
Saturday.
it. Yeah, you know, I felt like a lot of people felt like I was the underdog. I mean, in regards to the 4 candidates, you know, I was going after the establishment. I was the one that raised the least amount of money. I was going after someone that ran 2 years ago for city council. But again, I mean, you know, I'm doing this because I care. Been out there, been promoting myself as someone that really cares about this community, and with my website, with proof that I've been working in the
Robert, also, Ben's going to write you a check for the rest of his war chest. I just wanted to let you know that.
Negative. How do you get a negative balance?
No, but I really do appreciate the endorsement and support of Ben Mendez. I mean, he's helping me, you know, in regards to block walking in his neighborhood as well. And I'm proud to have the support of Leticia Blaza as well. You know, I mean, we all agree it's time for change. You know, this petty politics, you know, backstabbing.
And that's the worst of it, man. I mean, it's just old school politics
yeah,
there, and that needs to go.
exactly.
It needs to be dead and gone.
All right, with that, we're going to be back in 2 minutes with Pancho Claus.
All right.
To Latino Talk TV. Now, our next guest needs no introduction. Thank you for coming out, Mr. Pancho Claus.
Thank you, Ben. Santa told me to bring you an apology. He, you know, a lot of people don't know he lives right behind the Fiesta store. He did vote for you, but unfortunately, his 25 elves don't have a picture ID. So.
All the way from the North Pole. All this time, my parents had lied to me. I thought they lived in the North Pole. But thank you for coming out. I know you're a busy man during this time.
Oh yeah, we got
Yeah.
a lot of stuff going on. Going to a LULAC district party after this. So.
Yeah, I want to know, where can I buy a zoot suit? Okay?
Well, you used to get them at Coleman's Menswear back in the day. He was the king of the zoot suit makers. But they still have them. You go to the malls and the Vital type malls like the old Sharpstown Mall or Greenspoint Malls, they still have them, and you can still have them. This was made by Coleman's Menswear.
Or just ask Jose Diaz. He seems
Oh,
to
there you
have
go.
They have ton of them.
Yeah, so I know you have your shows. You've been doing it for how long?
This makes 32 years.
Ooh,
Yeah.
man, I wasn't even born then.
This is why I can't go to
Yeah,
clubs.
right.
This is why I can't go to clubs anymore. I go to a club once a year. A beautiful woman will start talking to me. I get all chiflado. Then she busts out with, you know, when I was a little girl, you came to my elementary school. I said, "Just get my walker and leave."
So that's who you were.
Exactly.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know there's a lot of tradition. You know, I remember seeing you when I was a kid. I used to work at Ripley House back when he was at Ripley. So that was a long time ago. And I will tell you that I've always admired your work with the kids. I mean, I see these kids starting from very young. I remember them breakdancing, and now many of them are at the national, international level actually dancing.
We have youth performers that have been councilmen, state representatives, president of community college, Golden Globe winners, and you know, so we have a good amount of success stories. But you know, to me, the success stories are the ones who know the importance of treating their family right, of getting their kids an education, of helping their community. Those to me are very important to me.
You know, I could have sworn I saw him last night. You know, the Heritage Awards. President Obama was at the Heritage Awards.
Yeah.
And sitting right next to him was Santana. It looked like Pancho Claus.
Poor Santana.
You know, Richard, we really owe you so much. I mean, you've done so much in this community over the years. You were the founder of Talento Bilingüe de Houston, and I tell you, it's just great with all the work that you've done. Can you maybe expand a little bit on how Pancho Claus came around and what was the thought process
well,
behind
back
that?
in the day, the director of Talento Bilingüe, I actually Teatro Bilingüe. I joined Teatro
Right.
Bilingüe, then I changed the name to Talento Bilingüe, and I joined that group in about 1981. And they had on their season list Pancho Claus. And I asked, what is that about? And they said, we don't know, we haven't written that yet. Just the name. We're thinking of a guy with a sombrero and a sarape and a donkey type, you know.
A donkey.
Yeah. And so at that time, Edward James Olmos and Luis Valdez had just come out with the movie Zoot Suit. So I just took it a different way. It's that Chicano adaptation of The Night Before Christmas. It's a play, now it's a band, it's parades. But it was a play first, and you know, and what to my wondering eye should appear, but 8 lowrider cars all jacked down in the rear. And another line was, Amaya Paya están en la cama, mom in her nightgown, tú sabes, dad don't wear pajamas. So that was the play. And then somewhere in there, we've been doing 32 years, but about 5 or 10 years into it, people actually started thinking I was a Pancho Claus instead of an actor. And I started getting these heartbreaking letters of, you know, my mom's in prison, the house burned down, grandma's raising 8 kids, etc. And so we started going out on Christmas Eve on ourselves, delivering toys to different families. And now it's just expanded to so much more. We have a big Christmas party for about 300 families, and we just do so much with Navidad en el Barrio and Constable Victor Trevino. And so I'd say 70% of Pancho Claus now is raising toys and getting them out there. Some performances, some parades, and some just appearances.
Who's your biggest supporter?
I would guess Felix Fraga. Okay. Felix Fraga was my first boss at Ripley House, and when I really got into community, I always did a dabble on my own, but officially started working at Ripley House in 1981 with the Teatro, though. And Felix is the one who approached me and said, hey, you want to work with youth? Because, you know, you got this Pancho Claus going. And then, I mean, I get a call like 2 or 3 times a week from Felix, just seeing how he can help. So, yeah.
Sure. And any other stories that are highlights of the time that you've been doing Pancho Claus?
Oh, probably when the principal, elementary school principal, announced me, and she said, "Here he is, boys and girls, Sancho Claus."
Man, when I catch that, I know Sancho. When I catch that bad boy, we got into that trouble.
Did you correct her, or you just kind of played it
No,
off?
the teachers were like, you know, like, she didn't know. But
I tell you, Richard, do you have one? I mean, you know, my wife, for years, she was she worked with the Salvation Army, was head of the adoptive family program there. She actually started it and did it for many, many years. And I tell you, during Christmas, it was such a tear-jerking time to be out around those folks and making sure they got things. Do you have any? I'm sure you have a story like that we really had problem holding it together.
well, there's just so many kids, you know. I've been told one time at Stevenson Elementary that this kid was traumatized for some kind of tragedy, and he would not talk at all until we came over there and spent some time with him. I didn't know at the time. We're just being ourselves, having fun, and he was helping in the back, and they were just, you know, those kind of things really get to you. Yeah. Our letters you get from, because not all of them are success stories. I work with hard kids. I work for Constable Victor Trevino. I visit, during the rest of the year, I visit detention center kids at Harris County Youth Village or detention centers. And so, of course, you're not going to have 100% success stories when you deal with kids like that. So I still get letters from them. Some of them made it, got out. We helped them find jobs or shelter or get them back in school, etc. Some of them were hard-headed and kept doing what they were doing. Yeah. Those kids I get, you know, letters from like, can you help my kids? Can you go visit my mother? And and how much the little time we spent with them meant to them. These letters you get, the little time you spend with them meant to them. And it just showed me that any little act of kindness, a random act of kindness, is really appreciated.
The only letters we get is hate mail.
Ben does, yeah. I don't get no hate mail yet.
What did you say on the show last week?
And Rob gives them a love letter. No, but it's the chulo aquí.
But getting back to Robert here, as you know, Robert's running for city council. How important it is to have role models like Robert and others that are in the elected officials that are out there. Do the kids relate to any of that, or this doesn't even occur to them to run it for political office?
Well, it's funny, I was talking to somebody about that today, that I'll ask a kid who's the vice president of the United States or even who the governor is. They don't know, but talk about Illuminatis or that kind of stuff, they know all the history of that, So I think, as y'all were saying, social media is the key with these kids. These kids don't go to community centers like they used to. They don't go outside and play like they used
Oh, yeah?
to. They're
Absolutely.
on texts and games and, they're all their apparatus, the internet. I mean, we've started a Facebook called Pancho Claus Posse, which is just totally youth, teenagers and young adults, where we have art contests, poetry contests, what's going on in the city that's safe and fun. And that's where it's going to. I mean, we had to catch up with the kids to reach them. And it is social media. And of course, they're young adults. And to me, that is where, we have to get them interested in clever ways.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, in regards to the Pancho Claus, how long have you say you've been doing this?
This is our 32nd year. So we've been doing a little bit. Like I said, it started off as a play, and then it went to a band, and then the other. So.
And do you hit several like elementary schools, or?
We go everywhere from youth to well, we're going to be at Navidad en el Barrio Saturday with Israel Gomez. We're going to be at a parade in Braeswood, because those people raise toys for us, and we go all through that neighborhood in Braeswood collecting toys and get a good amount there. We'll be at a tamale cook-off on Broadway on Saturday. We'll have go through all kinds of neighborhoods on Christmas Day with Constable Precinct 6 and some lowriders. So it's a full gamut,
We're running out of time, but if you don't mind, I want you to look in that camera right there and tell our youth how to get involved with you if they want to participate. If I don't know what kind of activities you have coming up. Is there anything they can do? A website, phone number, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, go to our Pancho Claus Posse. It's a Facebook called Pancho Claus Posse, and you'll see a lot of information, weekly information of things going on, whether it's cultural or things youth are interested in, dances. And then you can write us there and find out what we're going on, or like I said, our contests that are going on from local bands to rappers.
Well, Javier wants to be in the mariachi competition.
I have a film of him. We should talk. I have a film of him rapping and hip-hopping.
Oh, you do?
I've seen that, yeah.
I think that film doesn't exist anymore.
No, I think I got a copy. One thing, Richard still moves really well.
Yeah.
Richard, I've seen you dance. You can
Walker.
The Walker.
You got to show us the walker.
At 62 years old, I'm trying.
All right, well, this wraps up our show. I appreciate you all joining us. Now, keep in mind, we're here every Monday night, live TV, 6 p.m. here in Houston's East End at the Houston Media Source. I want to thank you for coming out, and of course, Robert Gallegos, and of course, our co-host. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you all next week. Join us for Latino Talk TV.